more sunshine, too. Temperatures quite a bit warmer than our Tuesday. We're into the low mid 50s for the afternoon to enjoy, but then we back off a little bit, upper 40s to near 50 to end the work week. Around 60 by Saturday, then we're cooling off again, thankfully calm. No weather systems, no snow to worry about for a while either. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Looking to sell or buy in Huntersville or Lake Norman?
Hi, I'm Jeff Sny, owner and managing broker of Blue Oak Realty Group. Here's the truth. Your needs don't pause for the market. Whether you need more space, less space, or just the right fit, I'll help you create a smart strategy that makes sense for your family and your goals. With over a decade of experience right here in Lake Norman, I know this community, and I treat every client's goals like my own.
Call Jeff today or visit BlueOakRealtyGroup.com. Outstanding service, smart moves. That's Blue Oak Realty Group.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be listening in. Welcome to the Heal Exchange, where healing conversations happen, hope is restored, and champions are reminded that their life still has purpose, meaning, and power. I am your host, Coach C, the Crushing Chemo Chic, and today's episode is one that speaks deeply to the heart and mind of every fighter, survivor, and thriver, as also I would love to say champions. And today our topic is renewing the mind, emotional care for champions on their healing journey. All right, I am super excited to have here in the studio, along with me, two dynamic therapists who are out there in the mental health field, helping to navigate, helping other individuals navigate their lives through life's transitions. And we have two dynamic therapists. They're coming from Soul Solutions Counseling and Consulting Group here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And we have Miss Miss Parker Tompkins, and she's the clinical director. And then we have Cherish, and she is the Chief Operations Officer. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay. So first we have Parker. She's a compassionate and driven licensed clinical social worker associate, a licensed clinical addiction specialist associate specializing in working with adult families and adolescents. And then we have Cherish. She is a dedicated and clinically skilled licensed clinical social worker associate and licensed clinical addiction specialist associate, committed to empowering individuals on their journey towards self-discovery and growth. We are grateful to have both of you here with us representing Soul Solutions Counseling and Consulting Group. Okay, so with this topic, this is a very unique topic. A lot of times when we as cancer survivors, thrivers, overcomers, and we tread the journey of going through chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. We even have the issues of trying to get to treatment, what type of treatment. We have so many decisions that we need to make in such a life transforming situation. Mm-hmm. And so that can become overwhelming, overpowering, and it could get to the point where we just feel like it's just too much for us to necessarily handle. So I think that where we have here that renewing the mind, emotional care for champions in their healing journey is a good dialogue to have to open up for those who are listening in to learn some strategies, techniques, how to overcome. Cancer, we understand, it doesn't just only affect the body, it impacts our thoughts, our emotions, our identity, because certain things happen when our body changes, relationships that we may have, and even the way that we even see life or our viewpoint, our perspective on life. So today we are going to dive a little bit more into that. So our listeners, we want you to settle in, take a deep breath, and prepare your heart for a powerful exchange. As we can see in Romans 12:2, it states, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Just as our body undergoes treatment to heal, the mind must undergo renewal in order for us to thrive. And emotional healing is not just something that's easy to tread. The terrain can become very difficult. It can get to the point where it impacts our spiritual awareness. It also impacts our relationships. So relationally, it affects us. And then it also affects us mentally and how we interpret things and how we actually digest things. But God invites us to release our old thoughts, embrace grace, and allow Him to rebuild what life's trials try to break. Renewing the mind is an act of faith, courage, and daily surrender. Now, oftentimes we try to push through our pain without acknowledging how deeply our emotions are affected. And champions need to know there's nothing wrong with them when they are navigating a very real emotional battle. So I will have this posed to you, this question. What are some of the most common emotional and mental challenges? And you would say that a cancer survivor that will actually be faced with going through a journey.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned with the so many factors that go into seeking treatment, receiving diagnoses and things, I think a common theme is the uncertainty that individuals face. And from a clinical perspective, uncertainty leads to so many of those other challenges, anxiety, depression, trouble managing kind of those life transitions because we don't know what to expect, right? The way our brain is wired, our brain craves kind of familiarity, something that's expected, something comfortable. So when we receive a diagnosis or even a family member receives one and we don't know what that journey is going to look like, I think that uncertainty is really what opens the door for the emotional challenges and the mental challenges because it's hard. It's hard to manage something that you don't know
Absolutely.
what it might be and what all it might entail.
Yes. And then how can a survivor, actually differentiate what is normal, like emotional exhaustion, and then what could be the thing that actually leads to clinical depression. Now, I think let's kind of, table it at that point, and when we come back after our break, then we'll be able to really divulge into that.
I agree. And it is so important for people to feel comfortable to seek those supports in managing those emotions. So yeah, important conversation for sure.
Yes. So I'm excited. Can't wait till we come back. You're listening to The Healed Exchange with Coach C here on WSIC Radio. We'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back with more encouragement and inspiration from Coach C on The Healed Exchange, only on WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, a bit warmer, finally, as we go through our Wednesday, partly cloudy, more sunshine too. Temperatures quite a bit warmer. that our Tuesday we're into the low mid 50s for the afternoon to enjoy, but then we back off a little bit, upper 40s to near 50 to end the work week. Around 60 by Saturday, and then we're cooling off again, thankfully calm, no weather systems, no snow to worry about for a while either. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Are you in search of mental wellness, trying to overcome life's challenges, or simply need someone to talk to? At Soul Solutions Counseling and Consulting Group, we're here to help you find peace and balance. We specialize in anxiety, depression, addiction, and life transitions, offering personalized care and evidence-based therapies. With convenient telehealth options, we proudly serve North Carolina. Contact us today at 980-785-4332 or visit us online at soulsolutionccs.com. Again,
and Classically Rockin' on Saturday. Click on bin110.com to see their live music lineup, their specialty cocktails and whiskeys, and the food menu. The drive-through holiday balloon glow is Saturday at the Statesville Soccer Complex. From 5 to 6 p.m., visitors will enjoy a magical evening as hot air balloons light up the night sky. Admission is non-perishable food or personal hygiene donations for Iredell Christian Ministries. Visit statesvillenc.com for more details. The Statesville Christmas Parade is Sunday at 3 p.m. The parade route is on Center Street, beginning at Bell Street and ending at Statesville High School. Parade proceeds go to the Masonic Home for Children at Oxford and the Whitestone Retirement Community. Click on parade.statesvillenc.com for more information. Speedway Christmas at Charlotte Motor Speedway is happening now and runs through January 4th. The drive-through holiday light show features more than 5 million lights circling the iconic oval, pit road, and infield road course. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for tickets and information on Speedway Christmas. Stay up to date and find out about local events, job opportunities, real estate information, and more. Visit liveworkplaylkn.com and sign up for the weekly newsletter. That's liveworkplaylkn.com.
We're back with the Healed Exchange, your midweek boost of hope, encouragement, and empowerment. WSIC Local starts here.
Welcome back to the Healed Exchange with Coach C. I am Charlisa Herriott, affectionately known as Coach C, the Crushing Chemo Chic, and I am your host here on the show today. We are super excited to have with us Cherish and Parker. They're both from Soul Solutions Counseling and Consulting Group here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. We're right before the break, Parker. We presented the question of how survivors can differentiate between normal emotional exhaustion and clinical depression or anxiety.
Right. And I think it's fair to say that at any experience and level in life, there are challenges that might present emotional fatigue or just feeling overwhelmed. And really, that is in itself a valid reason to kind of seek some additional support. I think once we enter the realm of my symptoms are feeling very frequent, my symptoms are feeling severe, then that is where there's going to need to be a higher level of therapeutic work and support to kind of get ourselves back to a baseline that we feel stable with that. What would you kind of add to that, Cherish?
Yeah, and I 100% agree, Parker, and this is why, like, at Soul Solutions, the soul is SOLE because it's about representing self and understanding that each individual has the solutions within them to deal with life's challenges. Right. And what we are there for as clinicians is to help guide someone in that, understanding that it's not outside yourself, but it's within yourself. And what you say, renewing of the mind, that's the whole part. That was what our founder, Jamal Ward, was all about. That was his passion. That is what he's wanting people to understand. And I think that that's so powerful when someone is dealing with something so significant like a diagnosis of cancer, and understanding once I feel off, knowing self,
Right.
I can seek support right then and there. And that's why we're here and why we're available, because people don't have to traverse that by themselves. Um, the power of being able to have someone else in that with you, not when it's at the rock bottom, but right when you feel something abnormal. We talked about earlier about like the uncertainty
Right.
creating like this unknown.
Yes.
Well, even in that point, it's that something is off.
Yes.
You know that. So there is a part of yourself that says, okay, you know what? I need to go ahead and kind of talk to somebody and talk through this, because I need to identify how do I feel,
Right.
right? And
Right.
get more familiar with self.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes, and that is so critical. Because a lot of times that when we as cancer survivors and thrivers go through the journey, we kind of keep things to ourselves. We don't want to impose upon our loved ones or our caregivers. We don't want to add that added stress to them or make them feel like they're overwhelmed, or even to the point where we feel like we may be a little too much for them.
Hmm.
So I know that that's how I felt during my journey.
Mm.
I didn't want to make my sister or my mother feel like it was just too much for them to handle.
Yeah.
And so when I say that I'm okay, I really wasn't okay
Hmm.
emotionally and mentally about it. When I would go for a treatment, and then they said that we can't have chemo today because my numbers weren't where they needed to be, then I have to go home. And it's like, okay,
Hmm.
but I'm okay. I'm okay because I'm still trying to protect them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So how do you think that, um, what would you suggest as far as we can look at where survivors actually feel like they still hold that stuff on the inside and will not necessarily share or
Hmm.
open up because they're still trying to protect their loved ones?
Yeah. I think that's such a important topic, and I appreciate your vulnerability in sharing that. I think there is so often, and it's unfortunate, but this feeling of I'm a burden, and this
Mhm.
feeling of shame, and even I think it goes into incompetence. Like, now I'm going to need some help. I feel like I'm losing some of my autonomy. Those
Yes.
are all very difficult things to sit with and to adjust to when you're used to something extremely different.
Right.
So I think the role of natural supports gets tough, because we have family and loved ones that want to support us and be there for us. But when you're dealing with something as significant as, a cancer diagnosis, it will also impact them.
Right.
They're worried about you, right? And now
Right.
they are feeling that maybe added sense of responsibility. And to me, excuse me, that even further promotes the importance of maybe having an external place where you can have, receive therapy, receive that professional support, where you're still receiving compassion and empathy and evidence-based treatment, but
Yes.
taking a little bit of that off of the family and natural support, because that compassion fatigue that we
Yeah.
talk about,
Right.
that family can get, caregiver burnout, those things
Right.
is real. So I think that's a perfect opportunity to bring in your own kind of therapeutic treatment to see what within yourself you can kind of adjust. Absolutely.
And
Yes.
that's so important, because therapy is a space, really, even we talk about individual therapy, family therapy. We offer family
Oh.
therapy. It's a space where the clinician provides the safety, that
Mm.
compassion, that non judgmental. Like when you have, um, if you come in for support, then it's about us being able to create that space for you to just unveil and say, hey, listen, I I don't want to put this on my family. I'm still trying to figure this out. And then being able to, like you go home and you're just like, I'm okay, I'm okay. That's what we call that mask.
Yes.
We're saying we are all right. We can be strong for
Mm.
myself and for, what I'm saying, those that we love.
Right.
And that can be a lot in anyone that is dealing with that, understanding that it's okay for you to be strong, but a part of your strength is the courage to be vulnerable, and knowing
Yes.
that, guess what, there is a space for you to be able to lay it down for a second, so that you
Right.
can have more strength. If that's what you choose to do to protect your loved ones,
Right.
that is your autonomy. But you can have a space to be able to let it down, let your
Yes.
hair down, right?
Yes.
And be able to share how you feel and how hard it is and what, but also be empowered. And that's one of our values too, right? The
Right.
integrity, that's one of our values. A part of integrity is also being honest with yourself and saying like, hey, this is heavy, right? This is heavy.
Right.
And in that truth you find, that's how you navigate that strength, that power. And then as clinicians, we empower you. Like, what is it that you want? What is the solution that you're seeing, and helping kind of reflect back of, you see how powerful you are, see how resilient you are, even in the midst of all that's going on. And that inspires caregivers. That helps people.
Absolutely.
Wow, we had no idea, but it gives you without breaking you down. And when you are dealing with something medical, we believe that your mind,
Yes.
your body has a connection.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
therefore, in order to be strong in that situation, it's so important to seek out professional help and know that it's at least available to you, to your family,
Right.
because the more I'm able to be honest with myself, the more I'm able to understand kind of my feelings and my emotions and how to manage these better,
Yes.
the more that I'm able to actually heal. I actually promote healing within myself
Right.
faster, even,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So those things are really, really, really key.
And I'm glad that you mentioned about that, because there's one thing as me serving as a cancer survivorship coach, and that I work with my clients. I let them know that it's imperative that we create a healed space.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning that our environment has to be conducive in order for healing to emerge. And when you had mentioned about, feeling relief when you going seeking counseling, and I had to get to that point because I knew that medically oncology was handling the situation with me physically, but mentally and emotionally, I thought I was strong enough because I'm a counselor myself. Oh, I can counsel me. I know the strategies and techniques, but it's just like a surgeon can't perform surgery upon himself, right? He has to go to someone else. So the same as we as counselors still need to go to someone else to help us to navigate through. When I realized that, then I said, okay, I need that help. And when I went, like you stated, Cherish, I'm serious. It was like I laid everything down.
Yeah.
And I felt relieved because it was a burden that I was carrying. And it was also hindering me from obtaining full healing, the fullness of healing.
Yes. I think what you mentioned about just the safe space and having the recovery to be able to heal is so important, because that looks different for everyone.
Right.
And part of our role too is to help people explore and identify what is safe for me, physically safe, emotionally safe. What does that look like? And then how can I execute that, And a
Right.
lot of times that's empowering people to set their own boundaries, right?
Yes.
Have conversations, let people know what you need instead of leaving a lot of space for assumptions and things like that. But we have to sometimes model and teach those assertive communication skills, having those self-reflection. We do a lot of value exploration. What is important to you, right? What do you need to feel like you are where you need to be? And then helping people kind of live that out in their day-to-day.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So we talked about this emotional weight. Is this really what it was carrying? That emotional weight. And that emotional weight can be very heavy along this journey. So once we come back here from break, we will talk about strengthening the mind every day, developing strategies and techniques of what we can do to strengthen our mind every day.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to that. All right, you're listening here on The Healed Exchange with Coach C. And we will be back in just a moment here on WSIC Radio.
We'll be right back with more encouragement and inspiration from Coach C on The Healed Exchange, only on WSIC. Local starts here.
Are you in search of mental wellness? Trying to overcome life's challenges or simply need someone to talk to? At Soul Solutions Counseling and Consulting Group, we're here to help you find peace and balance. We specialize in anxiety, depression, addiction, and life transitions, offering personalized care and evidence-based therapies. With convenient telehealth options, we proudly serve North Carolina. Contact us today at 980-785-4332 or visit us online at soulsolutionsccs.com. Again, that's Soul, S-O-L-E, Solutions, CCS.com. Or follow up us on Instagram at soul.solE.solutionsccs. Visit Soul Solutions Counseling and Consulting Group today, where change begins and ends with you. Your journey to wellness starts now.
Treats. Visit willowequine.com as you gallop to greatness.
Jay White here from Centralina Realty. At Centralina Realty, we believe it's all about you. If it's time to sell your home, don't go it alone. Put the team here at Centralina Realty to work for you. Go to centralinarealty.com and let's get started.
Men over 45, do you have a frequent, urgent need to urinate or a weak flow? Do you suffer from an enlarged prostate or BPH? Want to learn about alternatives to BPH medication and major surgery? How? Talk to a doctor about the UroLift system. The UroLift system is the #1 chosen minimally invasive BPH procedure in the U.S. It uses a proven approach to treating enlarged prostate symptoms that lifts and holds the enlarged prostate tissue out of the way, so it no longer blocks the urethra. No heating, cutting, removal, or destruction of prostate tissue is required. Find rapid symptom relief while preserving sexual function. Call 1-800-858-7070. 1-800-858-7070. That's 1-800-858-7070. Most common side effects are temporary and can include discomfort while urinating, urgency, inability to control the urge, pelvic pain, and some blood in the urine. Rare side effects, including bleeding and infection, may lead to a serious outcome and may require intervention.
Need a ride? iCats has you covered. Tuesdays to the VA in Salisbury, Thursday to Winston-Salem, and Fridays to Hickory. Plus, run errands every day around Iredell County for just $1. Visit rideicats.com.
The change of seasons is tough on your system. Dust, wear, and cold snaps test its strength. Let Horn Heating and Air Conditioning prep your home before the holidays, so your heat will be ready when you need it most. Fall into the season of Visit hornhvac.com, where your comfort is our business.
It feels good to be needed, and Angels and Sparrows needs you. Our Full Play fundraiser is underway, and your gift brings hope home to Lake Norman. One meal, one child, one family, changed by your gift. Give today at angelsandsparrows.org. Hope starts with you.
The button pushing stops here.
WSIC. Local starts here.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. The Federal Reserve's Open Market Committee is expected to cut interest rates a quarter point when it wraps up its meeting later today. That's all but certain. What is not as clear is what the Fed will do in the coming year. Right now, stocks are mixed ahead of the announcement. President Trump is getting ready to move forward with interviews for a new Fed chair. The Wall Street Journal says they will replace Jerome Powell, whose term is up next spring. Sources say CEO Mark Zuckerberg is personally involved in the day-to-day work at Meta as the company works on a new AI model, one it can make money from. It's codenamed Avocado, and it may be launched as a closed model that Meta can sell access to. Meta's Llama 4, an open-source model, disappointed Zuckerberg. The AAA says a record 109 million Americans are expected to drive at least 50 miles from Christmas Eve to New Year's Day. About 8 million are planning to fly. Daria Albinger, Bloomberg Radio.
Don't miss a thing. Download the WSIC News app today. WSIC. Local starts here.
We're back with the Healed Exchange, your midweek boost of hope, encouragement, and empowerment. WSIC Local starts here.
Welcome back to the Heal Exchange with Coach C. I am Charlisa Herriott, affectionately known as Coach C, the Crushing Chemo Chic. And I am here at the studio with two dynamic therapists here. They are just wonderful. They're representing Soul Solutions Counseling and Consulting Group here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. We have Parker Tompkins and we have Cherish Fields. Welcome back. Now, prior to the break, we were speaking in terms of talking about the practical emotional wellness tools and strategies that cancer survivors can implement within their cancer journey. So, Parker, let's go ahead and lead us into that. What would be those practical emotional wellness tools that they can actually become involved with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think before even jumping in, it's very important to acknowledge that this looks so different for everybody. It's such an individual experience, and what works for some might not work for others. We use evidence-based practices that do have some specific tools and strategies, even when it comes down to mindfulness, grounding activities. There's an activity I like to do surrounded by the five senses, having somebody identify 5 things you see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can taste, 1 thing you can touch, something along those lines to really ground and gain some control over the emotional and really cognitive spiral that sometimes happens in our thoughts. But even with that, deep breathing is another example. And there's plenty of people that you could look at and say, let's take some breaths together. And they'll look at you like, I'm not taking no breaths, because that hasn't been effective. But
Right.
I think it's important that people recognize a lot of these tools and concrete strategies are very, they're not one size fits all. There is a trial and error aspect of finding out what is actually effective in alleviating some of that emotional weight that they're carrying around.
And that's why we value client-centered care.
Okay.
That's so important because it's about the client and what do you feel comfortable doing. And when we can survey that, we explore, right?
Yes.
It's, what do you feel like? And we meet you where you are. So that trial and error still comes in it, but we can kind of know what may not work for you
Yes.
because you might not be there yet, right?
Right.
One of the tools that I like to use is affirmations because I believe
Oh, absolutely.
there's power in your words, right?
Yes.
And you need to train your subconscious for the outcome that you want,
Right.
right? Renewing that mind piece, and that's really a part of that self piece too, of kind of remembering like I have power in this,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
And sometimes it's not easy for people, to be able to recite that and hear them speak certain things because that is not when you think about prior to that diagnosis, you may have not needed to do that. That might not be something you've entertained. So
Right.
then now that you have this and hey, you're fighting through it, you're like, sometimes there's still a denial or a hesitancy, right?
Right.
That comes with that. And that's to be respected. So it's, hey, you know what? Here's some strategies. Let me educate you. We call psychoeducation, kind of educate you on what these different tools look like. Then give you a couple options. Which one
Right.
would you like to try? What is this? Which one sounds good?
Yes.
And then that's where we'll go with it, and we'll work on those things and kind of report back, when you come
Mhm.
back into session. How did that feel? And we could even try one here. It's really not only just the affirmations, but breathing. I love the breathing aspect and getting my clients sometimes when they're overwhelmed and they come in and it's like, let's take that deep breath in, breathe out the worries, breathe out the stress.
Yes.
And it's about experience. So I'll get them to close their eyes. Just get steady. I'll tell them, just clear your mind. You should see nothing but blank anything on your mind. And then you're going to just take a deep breath in as much as you can through your mouth. Through your nose. You should feel it deep in your belly, even touching your belly. You're going to slowly breathe out through your mouth. And we just do that 3 times, just to really get that feel for it. And a lot of people say they feel a release of tension.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
They feel like, oh, that actually felt really, really good. Other things that to get them in the mode is I might say, hey, wherever you are at, we do our sessions virtually, which is the accessibility part.
Okay.
Jamal was very big on making sure that high quality therapy is accessible And so having virtual sessions, you could be in your car, you could be at your home, wherever you feel comfortable and you have the privacy.
Right.
That's really key. And so we'll have you put your feet on the ground if you're able to, and get you really comfortable
Yes.
so that then you can really be in that experience for yourself so that you can, find yourself and then just let go, And so
Right.
that is a lot of people say that's very helpful to them
Yes.
because sometimes when you're on the go and you're just trying to get through and, you're concerned about your family and you're trying to get to the appointments and things get a little
Yes.
bit more chaotic at
Right.
times because
Right.
the appointments have increased.
Yes.
You're still trying to show up for work. You're still trying to show up
Yes.
for family. You're
Yes.
still trying to
Yes.
socialize,
Right.
And so with that, it is sometimes slowing down
Right.
and understanding the power in slowing down and being present.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. And even a few things that you were saying made me think about the way that we have a role to provide therapeutic support, but that also does include a kind of education and modeling piece sometimes. And something that came up with you asking just about the weight and how to manage some of that, it takes me to kind of a cognitive behavioral place of teaching individuals to recognize their thoughts. And we work with something called automatic thoughts a lot. The things that your brain is automatically telling you about a given situation. Unfortunately, as humans, our human nature frequently has us go into these extreme thinking patterns that are not rational, that are often not accurate. And so helping teach people to identify those and recognize when those are happening and then reframe a little bit to something that feels a little bit more level, that feels a little bit more affirming, positive. I think that's an important strategy and tool for people to be able to carry and can do independently throughout their day. Catch those thoughts that are not helpful.
Right.
A lot of people think our brain is our friend, but sometimes it's not. Our
That's
brain is very
right.
capable of having some nastiness towards us. So being able to
Yes.
identify that and kind of put something a little more rational in place.
Oh, that is good. And even when you mention about the breathing, and I would just have to attest that does work for me. Whereas when initially I found out about the cancer, it's from a car accident. So the post-traumatic stress comes from every time I get in a vehicle and I begin to drive and I'm on a freeway. And so now it's getting to the point where I panic when it's a heavy traffic. I have to get on the interstate. It's like, how can I do it? How can I manage? Because a lot of times I was on the interstate and had to pull over, but ended up in the ER and consistently end up in the ER thinking I'm having a heart attack, but it was actually anxiety.
Some of those panic symptoms.
Yeah, the panic attacks and stuff. So for a lot of times, because it becomes overwhelming, the going to the medical appointment, sometimes you're there alone and you have to drive yourself, or sometimes you're, battling trying to fight for life. And then you're also trying to fight for your insurance, trying to fight for your job. So you're trying to fight for your marriage or your relationships. You're fighting financially to keep a roof over your head. All of these things land and they serve as that emotional weight. And taking a deep breath, pausing for a moment just to get grounded. Is so key that I found in my life. That really helps me.
Absolutely.
And it brings, that emotional scare level of it down tremendously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think at that point we can get to a level that we can be able to, become aware of our surroundings, see what our options are, and then really, make more rational decisions and not decisions out of haste or emotions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, coming back, we're getting ready to prepare for our break, but we want to look at the unexpected life changes and how that dramatically affects the individual. And we'll speak more about that when we come back with you, Cherish. Okay, here we are. You listening to The Heal Exchange with Coach C on WSIC Radio.
We'll be right back with more encouragement and inspiration from Coach C on the Healed Exchange, only on WSIC. Local starts here.
Are you in search of mental wellness, trying to overcome life's challenges, or simply need someone to talk to? At Soul Solutions Counseling and Consulting Group, we're here to help you find peace and balance. We specialize in anxiety, depression, addiction, and life transitions, offering personalized care and evidence-based therapies. With convenient telehealth options, we proudly serve North Carolina. Contact us today at 980-785-4332 or visit us online at soulsolutionccs.com. Again, that's Soul, S-O-L-E, Solutions, CCS.com. Or follow up us on Instagram at soul.solE.solutionsccs. Visit Soul Solutions Counseling and Consulting Group today, where change begins and ends with you. Your journey to wellness starts now.
Bin 110 in Cornelius presents live music with Townley Road on Friday night and Classically Rockin' on Saturday. Click on bin110.com to see their live music lineup, their specialty cocktails and whiskeys, and the food menu. The drive-through holiday balloon glow is Saturday at the Statesville Soccer Complex. From 5 to 6 p.m., visitors will enjoy a magical evening as hot air balloons light up the night sky. Admission is non-perishable food or personal hygiene donations for Iredell Christian Ministries. Visit statesvillenc.com for more details. The Statesville Christmas Parade is Sunday at 3 p.m. The parade route is on Center Street, beginning at Bell Street and ending at Statesville High School. Parade proceeds go to the Masonic Home for Children at Oxford and the Whitestone Retirement Community. Click on parade.statesvillenc.com for more information. Speedway Christmas at Charlotte Motor Speedway is happening now and runs through January 4th. The drive-through holiday light show features more than 5 million lights circling the iconic oval, pit road, and infield road course. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for tickets and information on Speedway Christmas. Stay up to date and find out about local events, job opportunities, real estate information, and more. Visit liveworkplaylkn.com and sign up for the weekly newsletter. That's liveworkplaylkn.com.
A new show is making its way to WSIC. Tuesdays at 4, join host Patty Alvarez for The Good Soul, a show with in-depth chats with people from all walks of life. Want a sneak peek? Download the WSIC app now and stream The Good Soul podcast.
Bin 110, upscale and elegant, but never pretentious. Over 500 whiskeys, 100 wines, craft cocktails, and crave-worthy small bites. Live music plus monthly comedy nights and tastings. Post your next event at Bin 110, located at 19712 One Norman Boulevard in Cornelius.
We're back with the Healed Exchange, your midweek boost of hope, encouragement, and empowerment. WSIC Local starts here.
Welcome back to the Heal Exchange with Coach C. And we have our two dynamic guests here that we're having a great conversation. And we have Cherish Fields and Parker Tompkins. They're both with Soul Solutions Counseling and Consulting Group here out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And prior to the break, we were speaking in terms of talking about the trauma aspect of it. So, Cherish, could we kind of hit a little bit about that trauma and how we navigate through that?
Yeah. So, trauma can be tough because when we experience something that we identify as trauma, what happens is it replays and it has a tendency to have various symptoms from that. So, hypervigilance, right? Hypervigilance is way that we kind of like are always like scanning for different triggers essentially to keep ourselves safe. Anxiety will increase, panic increases because we are trying, it's basically our body trying to prevent it from occurring and trying to get ahead of it. So we can experience things that are very disruptive, I would say, you know, to our life. And it's already disruptive because of all the things that you said before. I have to manage that happens when the diagnosis comes,
Right.
and so that trauma is that part of you that is the experience that you have to, I would say, face, and that's where I think the therapy can come into play, where you are actually being able to process through how impactful whatever moment in the journey
Yes.
has created that. So you, for example, you gave the example of being in the car from
Right.
that car accident, then you discovering, whoa, hold up, here's this diagnosis. So of course, going into a car or having anything to do with a car is like, I don't want to experience that again. It's your body saying, last time I was in a car and I had to go to the hospital, I found
Right.
out news that changed my whole life. I
Right.
don't ever want to experience that again. So it's almost like your body rejecting, but at the same time, also protecting you, because in your mind, you're like, I was fine before,
Right.
right? And so there's a grief in that process. And so trauma is so layered in terms of the experience. And that's where therapy and getting that support is so helpful. Professional help in that aspect, because that can be a lot for, your support system in terms of family or someone else to unpack with you.
Yes.
Because it's so layered. And there's interventions that can absolutely help you navigate through that, because we want to respect like a client's experiences and what they see. And a lot of times our mind likes to remind us, I like to
Yes.
say,
Yes.
of the negative, sometimes more than the positive.
Right.
And that is
Right.
so like conflicting, maybe you could speak on some of the things that, we use
Yeah.
in the therapy room.
Well, it's very intentional too. What our brain does. It's not coincidental. Our brain, when you go through a trauma, what happens in your body are stress responses. We all have stress responses that are literally firing. They're turned up because we went through something. And
Right.
a lot of times with trauma, we don't take the steps and use the strategies to tell those stress responses that they can calm back down and that they can quiet back down. So then you have these stress responses that are firing from a trauma, and you're in a situation that reminds you of the trauma, not is repeating the trauma, but it's almost like your body can't tell the difference, right? We're still
Right.
at that same level of stress and anxiety. And so in that, the brain is doing that intentionally, almost as a defense to protect yourself from experiencing that again.
Yes.
But sometimes it almost works against you because there's not an active threat right now. It's just that reminder of the active threat. And so it's really important to be able to have the tools to differentiate and to say, I'm triggered. You mentioned triggers. I think there's a lot of things that can trigger or remind us of something, very negative and very hard to deal with. And being able to separate, this is not me going through it again.
Right.
This is just me feeling kind of the residual impacts of it. So now that I can recognize that, it's more of a trauma response. How can I kind of ground myself into where that's not having as heavy as an impact?
Yes. Now, even when I'm thinking about that, there are moments, once we go through that journey, gone through the treatment, and we rang the bell, and so now we're on the other side, and we're in the survivorship status and moving in towards thrivership, So once we get to that point of survivorship and moving towards thrivership, then we're out there living. We're back, to our positions of employment. We're, managing or reconnecting with life again. So when we get out there and things are going well, but then we have our annual appointments, annual exams. When it comes to those annual exams, just to do those checkups to ensure that once we receive NED, meaning no evidence of disease, then we have another checkup, like such as I go every year to ensure, do scans to make sure that there is nothing that has appeared within that year's time frame. Each time we get ready for it, it's like the body just automatically goes into that response, knowing that, the fear is there, not knowing, talking about where uncertainty, not knowing what's going to happen, if there's going to be anything, will it still be clear? So it's like you get into those emotions, what we call skinanxiety. A lot of times cancer survivors and thrivers, they have that. They experience that skinanxiety. They have that fear right before a scan. So Parker, how could you, what would you suggest for us? How would we manage when we come to those moments?
I think it's very real because like we talked about kind of earlier in the show, we are fearful that we'll go through these things again and we don't want to naturally, right? We don't want to go through them again. I think one big tool is, and I'm trying to think of, I guess, the clinical term for it, but prolonging your worry. And by that, I mean, a lot of times we tend to worry about things before we know that we need to worry about them or before we even get a result back, right? So with the example of going into a scan, we can use the grounding tools to tell ourselves, I'm going to get the results. I don't need to go ahead and assume the worst, right? I don't need to go ahead and kind of back to that extreme thinking patterns, allowing things to serve the purpose that they are going to serve. Recognizing I'm here to be preventative. I'm here because I am on top of my care and wanting to make sure that I'm taking the necessary steps to make sure that I'm good. If I'm not good, I'm catching it so I can get further treatment, giving yourself those affirmations of I'm here for the right reasons.
Right.
And I can, if there's something to worry about, I can worry about it when it's time to worry about it, when we know for sure.
Right.
And even off of that, I think what's important, which you help me to remember, when I work with clients, I always try to remind them, you said when you ring that bell, right?
Yes.
Well, now you've associated something with the hospital when you went to the doctors of a very powerful thing. You rang a bell, you overcame, you made it through. So I get people to walk back through the steps.
Right.
How, and empower them. What in this journey, what did you accomplish? I overcame. I was strong.
Right.
So when you go to that doctor, no longer are you looking at yourself as the victim or something happened to me.
Right.
No. You happened.
Yes.
You were strong. You made it through. You're going to make it through again. So it's what we choose to associate ourselves with in terms of the outcome and the experience.
Right.
And when you can have new experiences, and it's all psychology, right? Like, I think that's why the hospital has the bell, right? Because the mind is like, now I came in when I got the diagnosis, like, oh, I don't ever want to go back to the doctor possibly, right? But when I ring that bell, I remember I walked in here and I survived this and I'm going to do it again.
That's right.
And I can't wait, get excited about, what they're going to tell me. I'm still free and clear.
Right.
I'm still a conqueror.
Yes.
I'm still a victor.
Yes.
So it's helping remind people of the positive experience that they have overcome. And like Parker said, those affirmations and talking to yourself. That self-talk is so important.
Absolutely.
Because you will have, that trauma will want to creep up and remind you and say, no, see, when you went back, you had those diagnoses and, just doing everyday life, something uncovered.
Right.
And it's like, nope, let me, and you need someone to be able to help you with that. And that's okay. If you need that, that's where, clinicians, that's where what we help with.
Yes. That is powerful. Oh my gosh. That is super powerful. I'm telling you, this has been a great conversation here today. I believe it has definitely opened the doors for healing to rush through. And I felt that wind of healing that came through. Well, we're so excited. We thank you, Cherish Fields, and we thank you, Parker Tompkins, for joining us here from Soul Solutions Counseling and Consulting Group here out of Charlotte, North Carolina. You are listening to your girl, Coach C, here at the Heal Exchange. And we're looking forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Come join us here every Wednesday at 11 a.m. WSIC Radio.
Thanks for spending part of your holiday season with us. You can hear this full episode, plus previous ones, on the WSIC News app. WSIC, local, starts here.
WSIC, 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM, Statesville, Lake Norman's home for local talk radio. WSIC, local, starts here.